Hey, what's going on guys? Arekkz here, welcome back to another Borderlands 3 video, and today I want to bring you an interview, in fact multiple interviews I had a chance to record last week when I was over in LA for the Borderlands 3 gameplay reveal. The guys over at 2K UK very kindly lined them up for me. I had a chance to speak to different members of GearBox. I had a chance to speak to Paul Sage, who is the creative director, Danny Homan, who is the co-lead writer, and Kate Pitstick, who is the level designer and the mission designer. Now I also put up a video earlier in the week giving you guys a chance to put in some of your questions, so I drew together the best ones and tried to ask as many as I could. I only had limited time, so what I've done in this video is I've cut together all the best bits, all the best answers to some of the questions. I asked some of them the same questions, I asked some of them different questions. So in this video we're going to go over topics such as Endgame, weapon variety, missions, customization, story, future content, loads of cool stuff like that. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. If you do, then a like will be super appreciated. Comment down below, let me know what you guys think so far now you've seen some extended gameplay. And of course, if you haven't entered our giveaway for a chance to win a Super Smash Bros. Nintendo Switch, the link to that is in the description box down below. Now Borderlands is like the OG looter shooter, right? It's like back in the day, it was the looter shooter, right? But obviously since then, you know, the genre's evolved quite a bit as well. So how do you feel like Borderlands is going to kind of sort of fit into the space like now that it's coming back in? And is there anything that you're doing in Borderlands to kind of match the way that looter shooters have evolved now?
Sure. So one of the things that, you know, I feel strongly about is when you look at the space, there's a lot of different vectors you can look at, right?
Definitely.
Look at art style as a perfect example, right? Art style seems like such a minor thing, but it's big because is it my comfort level of playing in the game? Does this just feel good from what I'm looking at? You know, how does it hold up over time? Second, let's talk about you know the humor that it has, and I use the word humor, and it's almost not quite the right word because it's about the characters we develop, right? And if you'll forgive me, I'm going to use the word soul. There's a soul that goes into it, right? Fair. Because there needs to be irreverence and there needs to be a feeling of it being genuine, right? So when people go into Borderlands, if you ask me like the things that matter to me, right, that you learn from some of the other games, then whereas I think we really strike high marks in those areas of like art style, that feeling of genuine and irreverence. Definitely. Then the other thing I think we had to really like bring up our game on was how does it feel just to shoot? Just that moment-to-moment gameplay, like how does it feel? And we spent a lot of time like looking at like, you know, different shooters. I'll tell you honestly, I like Destiny. I think that's a cool game, right? And I love how reactive it feels. And so as we looked at it, we saw like, okay, well this is really cool. We of course were playing all sorts of modern shooters, like, you know, all the different ones. But that shooting had to feel good this time. The environment 100%. Had to feel reactive. And when you have a controller in your hand, you want the controller to feel like I have control. But you know what I mean. It's really about that feeling as well.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, I mean, that definitely translated through. I mean, you know, guns felt great. And there's billions of them in this, so it's you know, fair to say. TDR is my favorite so far. But with that being said, though, I mean, again, sort of, you know, within this space, for anyone that maybe is coming into Borderlands, say maybe they haven't played 1 and 2 before, but they are maybe familiar with the genre. Is there anything you're going to be putting into the game, maybe towards Endgame, that will allow people to play it in a more cyclical, kind of weekly manner?
So you might be interested to know this, and I think this is a cool figure. I didn't know this until a few weeks ago, but over 200,000 people play the game daily. That's Borderlands 2. Right, yeah. So we've kept a lot of that same feeling of like, what causes people to want to keep playing that game, right? And I think it is the loot. It is the number of guns you have. You know, I don't want to pass over this feature too much because that moment of victory of shooting something and then finding that awesome like piece of loot and being able to use it right away and get a feel for it, decide whether that's your style or not. That seems like a simple thing, but it's actually not something that everybody does right now in the genre, right? True. And I think that helps. Is there going to be like cool like content at the end of the game? Damn right. Now I wish I could talk about it today, but I can't, right? Fair. But yes, it's going to be something that is slightly different than what we've done before, but also really cool. Okay, fair.
Does that also factor in the Guardian system that I saw on the menu? Is that the kind of broaching to the stuff you couldn't talk about too much?
There is a new system put in place. The thing I'll say about that is it's kind of like an evolution of the badass ranks. Okay. You know, for those people who know that. And then with that, I'll let it go, and we'll talk about that more later.
Fair enough. No, that's fair enough.
Well, we're going to be talking a little bit more about the in-game content at E3.
Right.
And then we'll be revealing more details about that as we get closer to our September 13th release date.
Fair enough.
But we have taken in consideration, especially the players who are still playing Borderlands 2 and have been since its launch. Looking at how the community has set up like their hunt events and figuring out ways that we can reward those players who do want to stick through with that.
Okay. On the topic of kind of like working through like missions and activities, like, you know, are there kind of like additional things that you can do sort of as like ambient activities that you can do like alongside your main missions, or is it very much kind of like, you know, you follow your path and then you kind of go to the next one?
I mean, yeah, there's a whole mix of both, especially with mission design, actual missions that you can turn in. We have our plot missions are going to be the longer story, like, you know, overarching plot. The side missions are going to be hearkening to more traditional, shorter, generally probably about 15 minutes of gameplay, but some of them might be shorter depending on what you're doing. Our bounty board missions are going to be the shortest ones.
Right, okay.
You may have seen some of those during the demo where one of them is a kill. There's the Baron that you have to go kill. And it's very straightforward, like, go kill that dude. Zero hands that off to you, and we've tried to associate those with specific NPCs.
Right, okay.
That way when you recognize it, you kind of get the understanding of what that's going to be,
right,
what that's going to entail. Overall, though, we still want to have those side areas that you can wander off and explore and find a chest or find something like a little scene hidden somewhere. And it might not be relevant to any side mission or story that's going on, but it's a fun thing to reward the players who do want to see the environments.
Definitely, yeah. Okay, no, I mean, sounds awesome. How long is the campaign?
How long is the campaign? All right. I will say this, you know, right now, the campaign is running very similar in length to what you saw in Borderlands 2. And by campaign, what I assume you mean is if I beelined it, only playing what we call, you know, internally the main story mission all the way through, then it would be about as long. So, you know, just as a guesstimate, but okay, better than a guesstimate. It would be somewhere around 30 hours or more.
Okay. Right? Awesome. Yeah. And then obviously, you know, following that, there's plenty of endgame stuff too. So
if you do side missions and everything else, man, it starts to get like insane.
Yeah. So, speaking a bit more about like Sanctuary 3, obviously that looked incredible. Like, you know, having that ship, like having, you know, one of the questions I did have was, you know, was the ship just going to become a glorified loading screen? But it's obviously not. It's much more. Can you talk a bit more about kind of some of the stuff that you can do there? I mean, will there be like narrative strings that you can pursue, kind of get to know characters better?
Wow, that was actually really perceptive. So yes, there are going to be narrative strings. There are going to be missions that take place on that.
Right. Okay.
Let's talk about the idea of why we put it in there. Right.
Sure.
So, you mentioned loading screens, and that's something we're very conscientious of. We want people to just get in and be able to play the game. So travel times are one of the things that we looked at. Like, hey, if I'm on a certain world, how do I quickly just get up, do my business like I would in any other kind of hub or something like that? Still have that be entertaining, but be able to get right back into the gameplay I want. And that was one of the goals of Sanctuary 3, was to be able to do that. Now, there's all sorts of fun characters and everything you can explore around there. But I think as a hub and it being able to travel with you and you being able to access it at any time was the main point of it being fun.
You know, first of all, Sanctuary is rad. The thing I think is so entertaining about that ship is that, like, it's Borderlands, so it's kind of like a high-tech, low-tech world. And, like, as you go through that ship, it feels so lived in. Like, our artists, like, they're magic makers, but, like, you'll walk across something and there's, like, a Band-Aid across, like, a coolant pipe, and you're like, that seems very reckless, and no one's saying anything. Why? As a writer, you know, being able to fill that ship full of characters and being able to interact with them is, you know, it's so much fun because you have all the main characters that you meet, you know, during your journey. Then you have just like random characters who are like kind of like banging on the slot machines or like just kind of moseying about. And so some of the idle VO that you hear is like the most fun to write.
Really? Yeah. Okay. And is there, I mean, outside of the room that you have where you can kind of display your weapon stuff, is there more kind of customization throughout the ship, or is it more for that?
Okay, so there's a customization level in your room, but there's also things that you unlock as you play the game that come in that actually just change the way the ship feels. That could be NPCs. It could be, like we talked about, Hammerlock's room. There could be trophies, and there are all sorts of little touches like that.
Okay, and to that point, if I'm playing multiplayer, can my friends come to that ship as well? Will they see my ship, or will they see their own ship?
So they will see your ship if you're hosting the game, and there might also be something that they bring with them in their own room.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. That sounds cool. That sounds very cool. One of the things I want to speak about as well is the notion of brand loyalty. So I mean, like on the website, kind of when the weapons were first spoken about, it was phrased as brand loyalty. I mean, is there more to it than just like I'm assuming there's like another tier to it. So can we expect something like set bonuses or anything like that? Like if I'm stacking, say, all TDO weapons, because that's me.
Right. Okay, so there is something to firing the same weapons over and over again.
Okay,
now, of course, there's in-game challenges, right? Those challenges grant you experience. They might grant you other things.
Yeah.
When I say other things, what I mean, we have a mail system in the game, and there might be something coming for you in the mail for offering brand loyalty, right? So we already hinted at that. So I think it's good to let people's imagination run free on that one for a little while.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. How many pets can Flak have?
So what you've seen so far are 3 pets.
Yeah. Okay. Important question. Are you familiar with the Twitter account that says, "Can you pet the dog?"
Yes.
So to that point, can you pet the skag if you're Flak?
Ooh, I don't know if I can answer that yet.
Because I saw Hots in the trailer. I mean, can you interact with it?
Yes, you can interact with your pet.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. We'll have to look for that one.
Yeah.
So Borderlands, obviously, for people who kind of become established, the 4-man squads, the kind of set up for like 4-man content. Would you ever consider in the future? Again, this is sort of something more so inspired by the evolving looter shooter genre. Would you ever consider for Borderlands more than just 4-player content?
I think where we go in the future, is one of those things. Hey, now I'm speculating, right?
Yeah.
I think we'd consider almost anything. But if you're asking for any plans on that, I think what you see that we do with 4 players is going to be where you'll be like, okay, this is absolutely cool. I'm so happy they did this.
No, that's fair. That's fair. And can you speak a little bit more about the level sync system? Because we saw a little bit of that on stage. I mean, that's really interesting. But I mean, how does it work from a? We saw from the loot. We saw like if you're level 25, I'm level 1, we see different loot. But how does that work like in a combat situation? I mean,
yeah. So in a combat situation, you should never think about this, right?
Right.
Let me say a bit about what the team really wanted from the outset, which is, I want to remove the barriers.
Yeah.
I want to stop having this thing where just because I work, so many hours, you work different hours, that we can't play together. So it was about just systematically trying to remove every barrier we could to gameplay, right?
Okay.
And I think that was critical. So in a combat situation, let's say you're level 10, okay? And let's say because I've had access to the game longer, I'm level 30, right? But you are fighting you're the host, and you're fighting a level 13. I join your game. When I see that, I'm going to be fighting what is equivalent to me of a level 33, right?
Really?
So it knows your kind of differentiation there, and then make sure that you're as challenged as I am, and that we're both basically playing the game equally and on equal footing. So that's the way all the numbers, you'll see the numbers be like, oh, I'm seeing kind of what I would be seeing on the host numbers, which is fine. You understand that you're level synced, but at the same time, you're getting weapons and gear that are appropriate to you, and it just, again, it's just like, I just want to go play with my friend, and that's all you should ever think about.
No, that's fair, yeah. And I mean, to that point, so is the level sync system specifically tied to the instance loot option? So if we play Classic, will you not have level sync in Classic?
You would not have level sync in Classic, right?
So,
and the reason for that is, even internally, we were saying, like, what happens to those people who just want to have a higher level player make the game easier for the lower level player? And if we got rid of that, you wouldn't be able to do that. And we're like, no, this is people's game. Let them go play the way they want to play.
See, how do you top a villain like Handsome Jack? I
think the simple answer is that you try to do something different, right?
Yeah,
Handsome Jack he's an incredible villain. He's a dictator you want to have a beer with. Like, He's so fun to listen to. What I love about the Calypso twins is, I don't know if you have any brothers or sisters. I definitely
have a brother,
do.
Yeah.
And so, with siblings, it's like, siblings sometimes they help each other, sometimes they're antagonistic towards each other. Especially with twins, they know everything about each other. Every moment of their life, they know their strengths and their weaknesses. They know what makes them tick, and that kind of dynamic is so rich. It's a really wonderful scaffold to build characters on.
How important is it to you to be able to kind of strike that? Because it's got to be a difficult balance, trying to sort of strike being able to tell like a good story throughout the game, whilst also factoring in that people do often blitz through these games from that. So how can you kind of ensure that you're working that narrative in maybe in a slightly less conventional manner?
Sure, yeah, no, it's an awesome question. I mean, So we have Echo, which is the way that many characters speak to the player, and that's where you get your mission objectives, and that's where you hear from the villains and what have you. But there's a lot of other ways in Borderlands that we tell stories. So like we tell stories through the player character VO. We tell stories through even the battle VO. You learn a lot about the Children of the Vault and the Calypsos if you're just listening to what they say as they're attacking you, some of their death lines, right? Also, our artists, they do a great job of environmental storytelling. So, you know, if you take your time and you kind of look around, you can see these posters and graffiti about the Children of the Vault. You can learn a lot about the villains and a lot about the world just by kind of opening your eyes.
Are there going to be any new rarities beyond the ones we have right now for weapon rarities?
Right now, we're just sticking to the basic white through orange.
Fair enough. On the customization front, I mean, we saw like a little bit in the weapon front, but like, is there more to weapon customization? Like, can you mod weapons? Can you do like other stuff beyond that, or is it just down to their brand specifically?
It is brand specific. So our weapons, there are things in the weapons themselves where, you know, they have all the different parts that make like, hey, this is the system that builds all these weapons independently, right? And the thing is if you wanted to modify them, you'd almost be competing with that system. And so, you know, the team feels really strongly like, hey, the point of this is killing the enemies to get that really cool loot pool, right? And just seeing like what are the things. So, yep, it's absolutely still. You never know what you're going to get when you knock over the pinata, so to speak.
All right. Well, I mean, that's basically all I've got for the time being. So, I mean, thank you so much for your time.
Hey, thank you.
And I mean, is there anything kind of just to sort of like round it out that you want to sort of say to our Borderlands audience and like things to like look out for, anything like that?
I mean, game's coming out on September 13th of this year. I want you guys to have a lot of fun. And the one thing we didn't really cover was there's going to be a lot more boss fights in this game, and I can't wait for people to play all those different boss fights.
Thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to check out some more awesome stuff from us here at Arekkz Gaming, then you should definitely try to catch 269 and Paradise Central streaming 6 days a week. You can find a link to the multi-stream in the description box down below. They play a wide range of games, and what's more, we also have the Endgame store. By watching their streams, you earn currency, and you can redeem that currency on the Endgame store for really cool prizes. Those can range from things like games, comics, and figures, all the way up to controllers, capture cards, and even consoles. So definitely drop by and become part of the community. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, then make sure you're subscribed and be sure to click on that little bell icon to turn on notifications so you don't miss our next upload. You can watch more videos by clicking on the options here, but once again, thanks very much for watching, take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.